In this video, I'm going to be teaching how to cut and then sew a camp collar or coat collar. So let's get started. I'm going to be using the front and then back bodies for this tutorials. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is to trace the neckline and then the center front onto another fabric. So I'm just going to place it on another fabric like this and then trace out the neckline. You don't have to trace the whole neckline, but then you make sure it goes high. You can see I have about just 1 inch left at the upper part. So after tracing, the next thing I'm going to be doing is to measure about 2 inches at the hem or the lower part of the fabric. It can actually be bigger than this, that is if you want to. After that, I'm joining the 2 points together and then cut out. After cutting out, I'm going to be fusing this on a medium or soft interfacing. So after fusing it, this is how it looks like, and I'm going to be putting it or attaching it to the front part of the top or blouse. So I'm going to be stitching that center front 1/2 inch in, then fold it in and then press it. After pressing, next thing I'm going to be doing is to join the shoulders together by stitching 1/2 inch or whatever seam allowance you added. So after stitching, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to measure the neckline. But then before I measure, I'm going to be marking 1 inch on both sides of the center front. Note when measuring the neckline, those 2 points are not part. So from that 1 inch, I'm going to be measuring the neckline to the other 1 inch. You don't measure that part. So it ends over here on the 1 inch line, which is 14 inches. So I'm going to be folding this, interfacing into 2, and then draw in my collar. As you can see, I pinned it down to prevent it from moving. So the collar being 14 inches, I'm going to divide it into 2 and then mark 7 inches because the interfacing has been folded into 2 and it is unfold. So I'll be marking 7 inches from the center front or center back, just from the center, and then extend the line up. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to measure 3 inches up. After marking the 3 inches up, I'm going to be joining the points together to get a straight line. And then from that side, the corner over there, I'm going to be marking 1/2 inch out. Then join it to the collar itself. Now from the bottom, I'm going to be marking 1 inch up. And then from the center front, I'm going to be dividing that line into 2, 7 inches into 2. I'm going to be marking 3.5 inches. So at the center. And then I'm going to be connecting that point to the 1 inch over there. So just like this is how it's going to be. And I'm going to be connecting that 1/2 inch to that point as well. So this is all about the collar. I'm going to cut out and then fuse it onto my fabric. So this fabric is folded into 2. I'm going to be placing it on top just like this and then fuse it. After fusing, I'm going to cut out with 1/2 inch seam allowance all round. Then I'm going to stitch from that point through to that point. After stitching, I'm going to be notching the sides and then cut out that lower part. The seam allowance at the lower part is not needed, so I'm going to cut it out. After cutting out, I'm going to turn it to the right side and then press it down. After turning, make sure that part is pointy. If it's not, you can use your scissors to push it out to make it pointy. So after pressing, I'm going to fold this into two and then cut or make a notch at the center. After this notch, I'll be picking the main body of the top and then make a notch at the center back as well. Now it's time to join the collar to the top or shirt. So I'm going to be matching the notches together and then pin. Note I'm pinning only the part without the interfacing at the center. But then when you get to the sides, you are going to be joining both the interfacing and then the part without the interfacing together like this. Turn the facing for the front onto it like this and then pin. I'm going to be repeating the same process at the other side as well. So like I said, you are going to be pinning that part together, and then when you get to the end of the facing, you open it up and then pin on the collar without the interfacing. So after sewing, I'm going to let you know what I really meant by this. So you can see I stitched to the end of the facing. When you get to the end of the facing, you are going to make a notch on the collar with the interfacing. That is the upper part of the collar. I'm going to be making a notch of about 0.5 inches. 0.5 inch, sorry. So after cutting, I'm going to raise that part up and then continue stitching on the collar without the interfacing. So when I get to the other end, I will cut or notch again and then continue sewing. So this is what I meant. You can see I stitched to that part, made a notch, then raise it up, and then stitch from that part through to the other end where there's a notch. So after sewing, this is it. This with a notch there, and then that with a notch there as well. And then I raised it up and then stitched that part also through to this part. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to turn it out. But before that, I'm going to cut out the excess fabric from the ends before turning it out. Yeah, so after turning it out, all I'm going to do is to fold this in and then fold this on top of it. You're making sure you are covering the seam line. The black thread or whatever thread you are going to use, you make sure it's not showing. So like I said, I'm going to fold this in the 1/2 inch I stitched. I'm going to fold it in at the upper part as well and then stitch. making sure it's covering the seam at the neckline. So I'm going to pin it down to show you what I really mean. So after pinning it down, I'm going to stitch that part, and if you have excess fabric at that point, you can trim it off. Just make sure you are not cutting the seam line. So after pinning it down, I'm going to stitch from that part through to the end, and after stitching, I'll go ahead and then top stitch the upper part of the collar as well. So after stitching, I went ahead to join the sides. I'll press it and let you see the outcome. So yes, you are going to fold it like this before pressing. So after pressing, this is what I have. You can see the collar came out nice and then neat. So don't forget to like, comment and share my videos.